Of all the creatures of the sea, the shark is one of the most familiar, yet one of the most mysterious. To get facts on sharks, biologists at Marineland of the Pacific asked me to make a documentary film on these creatures in action and to test various chemical shark repellents. I chose a shark-infested area of the Caribbean for our work. I hired 2 first-class underwater cameramen, chartered a well-equipped boat, and had a special cage built for us of steel bars. From it, we could photograph and study sharks with little danger. The captain was a diver himself and knew the Caribbean well. The weather was ideal, but there was one big problem, and I couldn't do a thing about that. Her name was Lucille, and she was, well, let's say that she was a little absent-minded. She kept forgetting that she was the captain's wife.
If you like working with those New York models so much, why are you out here photographing fish?
Well, I wanted to cool off my camera.
Oh, Ralph, you're cute.
You noticed that too, huh?
You know, I always wanted to be a model. Do you think that I could... Oh!
Are you having fun, Kudner?
Oh, now, look,
you
Red,
keep
what?
out of this.
Look, she was just losing her balance. I was only trying to help her.
Yes, I saw that. Now you keep your hands off my wife.
Easy, Dad. I was only trying
And don't you call me Dad.
Why not, Dad?
Cutler, get your diving gear on. We're going down.
Oh, look, she was just losing her balance, and I tried to help her. This hothead comes in and starts popping off
It's his boat. Go on.
Mr. Marshall said to tell you we can lower the camera cage anytime you're ready.
Okay, Doggett. I'll get the shark repellent, huh?
Oh, my. Could I see you for a minute?
Oh, I'm sorry. They're waiting for me. We're going down the cage now.
You're always so busy. I heard you talking to Delmar about that book on underwater photography. The one you took the pictures for.
Yeah?
But it sounds fascinating. Could I see it?
Sure, I'll get it for you. I'll be right out, Mrs. Marshall.
It's Lucille, remember?
Here we go again. I'm glad it's not me this time.
Now, Marshall should have left her at home. He wouldn't be worrying about her every minute.
Wouldn't he?
There you are.
Oh, thank you. My? You know, it sounds strange, but with all the diving that Brent's done, I've never been the slightest bit interested. Until this trip. Oh, look, here's your name.
Yeah, those are some pictures I took from Marineland last year.
Oh, they look thrilling. I wish you could tell me how you took every single one.
Yeah, later. I got work to do now. Hey, I got the repellent. Be sure you wait now until Delma takes some footage of the sharks attacking the bait, huh? I'll give you the signal. All I have to do is slash that bag and shake the cupric acetate out towards the sharks, huh?
Gotcha.
Hey, give me a hand in my tank there, boy.
Yeah.
Kind of close quarters here.
Closer down below.
Marshal!
Yeah?
Okay. Lower the cage to 40 feet.
Over the side. Joe!
The scientists had insisted that we work with a cage, and they were right. Sharks are always dangerous. But my own experience had been that they won't attack a diver with an air lung unless he molests them or unless they're in a feeding frenzy. Before this trip was over, I was reminded that a man can be a dangerous creature too, and sometimes more treacherous than a shark. We stopped at 40 feet, about halfway to the bottom. We didn't have to wait long. Even before we put out our bait, sharks began to converge in the cage. They circled us warily. As I expected, they were very cautious. Delmar signaled that the camera wasn't working. Underwater, it was hard to tell what was wrong with the camera, so I figured that we might as well surface. I released a signal buoy.
Nelson ought to finish up around here about noon. Then we can head east for the deep water stuff.
That'll put us ahead of schedule.
The quicker we finish this job, the better I'll like it.
Hey, trouble.
Haul him up.
Delmar and Cutner checked the camera and found it could be repaired. But it would take time, and with the tension growing on the boat, I didn't think it was wise to fall behind schedule.
It's gonna take him 2 hours to fix the camera. Hey, how far is it to that deep water trench?
About a 3-hour run.
Oh, good. Maybe we can take all the tests in that deep water. Let's get underway.
Okay.
My, this book you gave me is just fascinating.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
Red never told me how beautiful it was down there.
Oh, it isn't always. I mean, not everywhere. It's just like on land.
You know, I never had one of these on. Oh, Mike, you've got to teach me how to skin dive.
Your husband's an expert. He's the man to teach you how to do that.
Oh, with Brent, everything is business. If you taught me, it would be so much fun. And I learn very quickly.
Yeah, well, we'll be shooting in shallow water in a few days. Maybe then, huh?
But if I try on the equipment now, I'll be ready when we get to shallow water. My goodness, this is heavy.
No, you need help to put it on.
Yes, I do.
No, it's not right. Like this. Put your arm.
Yes,
There.
it really is heavy.
Lucille, what do you think you're doing? Get that thing off your back.
Wait a minute.
You, get back in the cabin.
Pretty rough treatment for my tank, don't you think?
Look, Nelson, if my wife wants to learn anything, I'll teach her, huh?
Oh, you had no reason to blow off steam.
Huh?
No.
You keep away from my wife, do you understand?
Are you serious?
I'll show you how serious I am.
You're making a fool of yourself, Marshal.
Oh, Mike Nelson doesn't mean a thing to me.
All right. All right, then it's Cutner. Cutner or that other cameraman. Every time I look up, there's some guy hanging around you, and you let him. Yeah, I know. I know what this is going to be. Exactly like it was last year in San Juan. All over again, isn't it? Isn't it? Fred, you're hurting me down. Oh, Lucille. Lucille, why do you do this to me?
I'm gonna leave you, Brent.
It's Mike Nelson's book. Where did you get that?
He gave it to me. Did you hear what I said? I'm gonna leave you. I'm sick of you and your snooping and hanging around in the stinking boat. And when we get back to port, I'm gonna leave you for good. I bet you wish you could do that to Mike Nelson.
I'll take care of Mike Nelson.
We anchored in deep water and went down again for tests and pictures. Marshall seemed to have calmed down. I told Marshall to lower us 60 feet and then haul us up in exactly half an hour. Below us was an uneven bottom, in the deep places nearly a half a mile down.
That's 60 feet, Mr. Marshall.
Okay.
Well, nothing to do now for 30 minutes.
No. I think I'll take a look in on my wife. She's got a headache.
Okay, Mr. Marshall.
I won't be gone long, but you stick close to that winch and keep your eye on the water. Signal float bobs up, you know what to do.
Sure. Haul him up.
Down in the cage, we didn't know that Marshall had left the deck for a dive. Even if we had, we wouldn't have thought about it. We were too absorbed in our work. For a while, the water seemed deserted. Then I saw a flash in the distance. Shark. I alerted Delmar. I thought that we'd get some good shots this time, but we had another problem. Delmar had left his light meter topside. The quickest solution was for one of us to surface and get the meter. Since I had had a little more experience with sharks than the others, I went myself. As I started up, I was surprised to see Marshall, but I figured that he was checking the line. When I saw the knife in his hand and realized what he was doing, a sudden chill ran through me. He was cutting the line. If that cage dropped, it could fall a half a mile. The pressure would kill Delmar and Cutner in a few seconds. I had to stop Marshall. But I was too late. The weakened line snapped, and the cage plummeted down. Brent Marshall, crazy with jealousy, had cut the line to our cage. By a stroke of luck, it came to rest on a shelf about 150 feet down, instead of plunging to the bottom of the trench, a half a mile below. Delmar and Cutner didn't seem to be injured, but the doors were sprung and they couldn't get out. And they couldn't last long under that pressure, even if they had enough air. We had to lift that cage, or get them out of it, and soon. Every minute counted, and there weren't many left.
Now,
How's your headache, Mrs. Marshall?
A headache? I'd sure have one if I stayed below any longer. Where's Brent?
I think he's in the cabin. I'll take a look for you.
Thank you.
The line's broke. Get the skipper quick. That cage could drop down 1,000 feet.
There's one of them.
I came up as fast as I could. When I reached the surface, I found Marshall floundering there, still dazed and winded from our struggle.
All hands in! How about the others?
They're trapped in a cage in the bottom.
They're dead ducks.
Maybe not. Maybe not. They're on a shelf. 150 feet down.
150? Could have been 2,000.
The whole cage is sprung. They can't get out. You gotta rig up another block and fall.
I haven't got enough heavy line to reach that deep. The weight would snap it right off.
Well, what was he doing down there?
Get out of the way and keep quiet. Now listen, Marshal. Delmar and Kuttner are in that cage 150 feet down.
They're still alive?
Yeah. But they won't be for long if we don't find a way to get that cage up.
Yeah, but 150 feet.
I know. But you put them there, and you better find a way to get them up.
What do you mean?
He cut the line.
How could you do a thing like that?
Marshal, they got less than a half an hour of air left. Now, what are you going to do?
I'll see if I can contact a ship with enough line to lift that cage.
Doggin, make a rig out of what you got.
In the meantime, sharks kept circling the cage menacingly. For Delmar and Kuttner, the shark cage had become an underwater prison.
It's a freighter on its way, but it won't be here for 2 hours.
You got an underwater cutting torch aboard.
Yeah, but we haven't got any acetylene tanks. Got a hacksaw, that'll cut through those bars.
You ought to be good at that sort of thing.
On account of you, I tried to kill 3 men. Dorgan, get me a couple of hacksaws. I'm going down with Nelson.
Hold it, Doggin. What's the deepest you ever dove?
90 feet, but I can make 150.
Maybe. And working in that depth is something else. We couldn't last long enough under that pressure to cut through the bars.
Well, we've got to try it. It's the only thing we've got.
Yeah, we'll never be able to pick it up with that light line I rigged.
If we can. Get all the life preservers, life rafts, everything that we got aboard that floats, and we'll wrap them in a cargo net and sink them with weights down to the cage.
Say, that might work. We just might get enough buoyancy.
Yeah, we might. Come on. Let's get to work.
Dorgan put together the strongest long line that he could with what he had, but I knew it wouldn't be strong enough by itself. Even in water, 3,000 pounds of steel needs a lot of lifting, and the improvised line couldn't lift more than about 1,500. Our only hope was to buoy up the cage enough to make it lighter. We swam down with nets full of all kinds of things that float. Trying to work fast at that depth was the hardest physical labor that I've ever done. Every move was agony. We were counting most of all on the inflatable life rafts. Our last hope. It seemed a slim chance, but when lives are at stake, you try anything. It worked so well, the cage was rising too fast. There wouldn't be enough time to decompress coming up, and too rapid an ascent would be fatal. But Marshall and I added our weight, and it slowed down. I was wondering if our air would last long enough to get us all to the top when I saw Delmar signaling in panic and Marshall going to his side. Delmar was out of air. Then I thought the pressure must be getting me because I saw Marshall take off his diving lung and give it to Delmar. When he was sure that Delmar was breathing normally, Marshall took one last breath himself and started up. He tried desperately to make a free ascent, but I knew that it was hopeless. He must have known, too. It was too far to go on one breath, and he had been down too long. As he shot up, the air in his lungs expanded and burst them. Seconds, it was all over for him.
Okay.
We made Delmar and Kuttner as comfortable as possible and headed for port. And Lucille bore up well under her grief.
Just can't figure out why Brent would do a crazy thing like that.
Maybe he figured he had a good reason.
Here he was practically safe, and he goes and gives his air bottle to Delmar. Just don't understand it.
You never will. Hello there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is fun and adventure for young and old, but it can be dangerous. So know the sport well and don't take any chances. Be with you next week for another exciting sea hunt.
are two ways to dive in the sea. For about 150 years, there was only one way. Hard hat, we call it. Your head is imprisoned in a heavy helmet. Your life depends on a tow line and an air line to the top. Like the horse-drawn carriage, hard hats have given way to a much better device. Compressed air lungs for skin diving, the kind that I use. But some divers are too stubborn to give up the old method, and the rivalry between hard hats and skin divers is always good for a joke. But it was no joke when it became a matter of life and death. That fine August day found me in a small Latin American port. Only the day before, I had received an air ticket and a mysterious telegram. It seemed that a skillful diver was needed for an unusual job. Nothing more was explained. Out in the harbor, I could see divers at work salvaging a jet. Hard hats. Made me wonder why I was needed here, too. I went straight to the hotel. The Monaco Hotel in Santa Pueblo had seen better times. And so had the desk clerk. Professor Cathcart, please.
Who shall I say is calling?
Mike Nelson.
Mike who?
Nelson. Mike Nelson.
Mike Nelson?
Well, what do you know? Kel Saunders. You must have been one of those hard hats that I saw diving out there today, huh?
Hey, you know a better way to die?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do.
Still breathing through your mouth.
Once a hard hat, always a hard hat.
Did you come down here to put me out of business with that diving lung of yours?
Now you know I wouldn't step on a hard hat's toes. I might hurt my little rubber fins and those big lead boots of yours.
So, what did bring you all the way down here?
I might ask you the same question.
They wanted a hard hat diver, so they got the best.
Who's they?
The local government. El Presidente Verdes. We salvaged a jet plane for him that one of his pilots had to ditch.
Ah, that's what you were doing out there, huh? Well, did you finish the job?
Yeah, but they got a lot more jobs for me down here.
You better hurry them up. Down here, they change governments faster than it takes you to screw on that diving helmet.
Well, maybe so, but my customers pay in advance. How about yours?
Mr. Nelson?
I know that in a minute.
Room 211, sir.
I see you, Cal, huh?
Right. I'll bet you one of these you can't tell me who Mr. Nelson went up to see.
I do not gamble, sir.
Oh, not even for higher stakes?
Only when I am sure that I can win. He went to see Professor Cathcart.
Well, tell me more.
That's all. Professor Roland Cathcart, Smithsonian Institute, Washington, D.C.
It's supposed to be lying on the bottom right in this area here.
It seems pretty close to shore not to have been noticed before this, don't you think? How reliable is your source of information?
Quite reliable. I got it from a local fisherman. I'll have him take us out to the spot.
I just don't see how a large object like a submarine could remain down there unnoticed for over 12 years.
Well, on the contrary, a submarine is more likely to remain unnoticed than a regular vessel, due to its slick, fish-like shape. After a short while, a crust of algae and such could have camouflaged the hull beyond recognition.
Well, how'd your fisherman happen to spot it then?
From air bubbles on the surface.
Air bubbles?
Yes, he took me out there. I saw them myself.
After all these years?
Well, it's quite possible. Now, when it sunk, some of its compartments remained airtight. Years of slow corrosion could have eaten through the armor plating, starting gradual seepage.
For an archaeologist, you seem to be unusually well-versed in seafaring science.
Well, research, my boy, research. You know, since this was completely out of my line, I secured every bit of data and information I could lay my hands on through our local embassy, including your ability. You came well recommended as the most versatile man for the job.
Well, thank you, Professor Cathcart, but it seems to me that you want a salvage operator, not a skin diver.
Oh, you're not going to salvage a boat. You're going to unlock a door to history.
Well, it'll take heavy equipment to dismantle that sub.
We'll leave the scrap iron for someone else. All I'm after are its contents. Now, I'm sure you can handle the equipment it takes to get inside of one of these.
Well, I got a drill and a torch. Yeah, I could get inside of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, my guess is that for this particular mission, the German top brass utilized something like this long-range 750-tonner.
Utilized?
Well, it couldn't have been a combat mission. Not in this region. However, its last whereabouts does coincide with some of the confiscated reports of the German Admiralty at the end of World War II. And indicates it to have been a vital and top-secret mission.
Oh, wait a minute. You don't mean to tell me that you expect to find Hitler's body in that sub?
Well, I can't tell you what you'll find. It may be anything. From important historic documents to the remains of top-ranking Nazi fugitives. Or just a wild goose chase. That's why I sent for you. I can only guarantee your expenses until we see what we'll find below.
I've often wondered what that last trump was that Hitler had up his sleeve.
Well, is it a deal?
The next morning, Professor Cathcart and I set out for the spot with the bubbles. Pedro, the fisherman who found the place, came along as our guide.
It's gone.
What's gone?
Oh, that salvage boat. There were a couple of hard hats diving over it.
Hard hats?
Yeah. Oh, that's the conventional deep sea diving, you know, with the big helmet, the heavy lead boots, and the air hose.
Yes. Cumbersome, isn't it?
I became suspicious when I couldn't see Cal Saunders and his friend working anywhere in the harbor. I didn't trust those two any farther than I could throw them. And you can't throw a hard hat very far.
You're sure that you're the only one that Pedro's been peddling his U-boat information to?
Oh, certainly. Why shouldn't I be?
I guess the best way to find out is to get there as fast as possible. Let's go, Pedro, huh?
Si, senor.
Age-old salvage law of first come, first served, time was of the essence. And, as in the gold-infested hills of the Old West, the sea would only unlock its treasures to those that knew exactly where to look for them. The question was, are you alone in that knowledge?
Senor, the bubbles.
Well, here's hoping, huh? The water was very murky as I swam down, but the bubbles guided me. Then I saw it. The professor was right. It was a submarine. And it looked just like the type that he expected to. Even its origin fitted the pattern of the professor's speculations. And what this huge, war-weary time capsule held inside would tell the rest of the story.
Well?
Professor?
Nothing?
You got yourself a sub.
The right one?
On the button.
What about the bubbles? The air bubbles?
Just like you said. Seepage from one of the undamaged compartments.
Well, then we're still in time.
We'll soon find out. I'm hoping that the control room under the conning tower may be completely intact and sealed airtight. But I wouldn't dare to try to get inside of it through its outside hatch.
Why?
There's no telling what kind of gases may have accumulated inside over the years. A sudden release of pressure could cause such a vacuum that it would flood the compartment instantly and destroy everything.
Is there a way to get inside the control room with a minimum of damage?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I got in mind. You got a piece of paper and pencil? See, I want to get into the control room through the adjoining compartment, the one that's causing all the bubbles. Now, that's the sub, supposedly. There's the control room, conning tower. This is the adjoining compartment. It sounds like it's half filled with water due to its seepage. Now, if I can cut into this adjoining compartment, beneath this inside water level, I won't release this air that's still caught up here under the ceiling. And once I get up here in this adjoining compartment where this air is, it'll be a cinch just to cut a dry hole into the control room.
That's ingenious.
Elementary. Well, we'll see now if it works. I went down again. This time I brought my hand drill. It has a titanium bit that can drill through anything. We had a torch with us, too, but I was afraid to use it. The danger of explosion would be too great. Partly flooded compartment and prepared to cut through below it. In my excitement, I was unaware that there were other bubbles down there besides mine. When I looked around, I found myself trapped and realized that my suspicions had been justified. They tried to grab me, but their hard-hat rigs were so awkward that I slipped out. I went up to see what was really going on. It didn't take long to realize that we were double-crossed.
Senor Nelson? You are under arrest.
It seemed that we had been caught off guard in a well-organized surprise maneuver, below as well as above the water.
I am Colonel Perez, the military police. You are under arrest by the power invested in me by President Verdes.
For what reason am I under arrest?
Have you got a permit?
I got a passport.
Not a passport, a permit.
What do I need a permit for?
To dive in these waters.
To dive? I never heard of such a thing. The sea is free and international territory.
Not this close to shore, my friend. You are within our boundaries.
How do I get a permit?
From the President Verdes himself.
That figures. Slowly the pieces began to fall in place and fit. Cal Saunders' curiosity piqued by my presence down here. He had set out to do some snooping, and taking us from a respectable distance, he arrived well prepared to move in by pulling some powerful strings with his local big shot friends.
Just what did they expect to find?
What they find is none of your concern. It will belong to the state.
That is a matter of debate.
We'll take it up with the American consul. Pedro, take us back to shore.
Perhaps you did not understand me, senor. You are going nowhere. Until I say so. You are still under arrest.
What makes you so sure we're going to find gold down in that sub?
You don't think a big shot scientist will be traveling all the way down here looking for seashells, do you? One of those German subs. Must be loaded to the hilt with gold. You know, back in the days when Nazi high brass saw the handwriting on the wall and took a powder down here.
You don't say. Hey, Joe, hook up that acetylene torch.
Now, wait a minute. We better feel our way around on there first with a drill like Nelson did.
What for? We ain't got all day.
He must have had a reason for starting out that way.
Sure. He ain't got first-class equipment like we got.
I don't know.
We'll take both. You take the drill, I'll take the torch.
Okay.
Perhaps if they find nothing of great material value, we can still come to terms with them.
That's the way they're going about it. You better tell them not to take that torch down there.
What they do is none of your concerns.
There's bound to be gas in that sub's hull. A torch could cause an explosion.
They're no fools.
They've done bigger jobs than you for the president.
You better tell them not to take that torch down there.
Down! Did you hear what I said? Now listen. You interfere again, I'll have you thrown in jail. American council or not.
There was nothing to do but let these two pirates take what we'd found. They could pull strings on land, but they looked pretty clumsy in the water to me. Cal mistook my water level mark for a starting point to drill. But his cohort wasn't happy with the slow procedure and kept on looking for shortcuts.
Torch! Now, do you mind if I help?
Go ahead.
Get my weight belt for me, will you? Over there. I keep pulling on his shirt to break.
Hang on, I got mine coming in right now.
All right.
I jumped in and started to dive, but I saw one of the hard hats coming up. I swam over to find out what had happened.
Tried to cut through the front hatch. Torch. It was a terrible blast. I must have blacked out.
What about Cal Saunders?
I don't know. He's down there someplace. I don't think I can get to him in time. But you can. Will you?
The vacuum had sucked him into the sub. He didn't seem to be injured, but he was stunned and needed help to get out. Thanks to his unbroken air supply, he seemed to be otherwise intact. make the trip alone. So I figured I'd stay behind and try at least to save the pieces. Maybe some of those last rare pieces of Hitler's Third Reich. This small forward compartment must have served as part of the crew's sleeping quarters and torpedo storage. The torpedoes were gone. This was the hatch that led to what I had hoped to be the hermetically sealed control room, holding in its time-arrested capsule the secrets that Cathcart wished to contribute to history. With this small adjoining section flooded, I could no longer figure on entering a dry control room. Only by letting in the water gradually, I hoped not to disturb the condition of whatever I would find beyond. A small hole drilled into the hatch would act as a slow seepage vent. Letting the water seep through like this was like filling a bathtub through a straw. It wouldn't be much longer before I'd run out of oxygen. But it looked like my tiny floodgate had done its job, and I could finally enter. The cabin's airtight seal, combined with the accumulated gases, had acted as a natural preservative in all elements within this compartment. But strangely enough, they were only the hermetically embalmed remains of one single man. He might have been the radio operator or even the commander. If Hitler or any other dignitaries had once been their passengers, they were no longer to be found. And with them might have gone whatever material things they had required, such as gold. But since only closely guarded secrets make history, I guessed this to be their natural hiding place. Documents have ink and water can dilute it. A safely kept secret must be a dry secret, as it would be in this locked box. I opened the cabinet to disconnect the safe from it. At 60 feet, it isn't easy to work, but my equipment was light, my tools efficient.
Senor, the bubbles, they have stopped for 10 minutes.
I know. You and your politics. If it hadn't been for you and those hard-hatted cutthroats, he'd never gotten himself into this mess. What did you expect to find down below? Gold?
Why not?
Mike!
There's all kinds of gold. Here's yours.
A rope.
There's a small safe tied at the end of it. Who knows what's inside of it? Maybe chock full of history. Well, go on, pull it up.
Professor Cathcart pulled up his treasure to deliver it to the Smithsonian Institute in Washington. It gave me a good feeling to know that skin diving had made a contribution to the study of history. And maybe a lesson to a couple of hard hats, too.
I'll be back next week at this same time with another sea hunt story. Plan to be with us again, huh?
I was about a half mile offshore, working with a very attractive partner that Marine Land of the Pacific had assigned to me. We'd finished our job, and we'd even found some abalone for our lunch. But I might have known it was all too good to last. When we surfaced, a visitor was waiting for me aboard the boat.
Mike Nelson, I presume. I'm Lewis Hale. This is a real pleasure.
Miss Edwards.
Hi.
Hello.
Where's your diving line? The rest of your gear.
Well, I run a skin dive. I wear this to keep in condition.
You mean you swam all the way out here?
Sure, that's not far.
I'd say it was pretty far, especially swimming alone.
Which brings me right to my point. I need a partner, you. It'd be a lot of fun.
I have a lot of fun with my job now.
Well, if my calculations are right, there'd be a lot of money in the deal, too.
I'll make enough money. I'm perfectly satisfied.
Well, wouldn't you like to at least hear my proposition?
All right, let me haul in my net first, huh? We'll talk about it on the way in.
No, I'm going to swim in. I need the exercise. I'll see you on the beach.
Now, what's he trying to prove?
10 minutes later, we were tying up at the Marine Land dock.
I'll get on the beach and get rid of mussels as fast as I can.
Okay, Mike, I'll have lunch ready when you come back.
I feel great. That was a great swim.
Yeah, you're quite a swimmer, aren't you?
Only fair. Judo's a sport I really like. You ever try it? Huh?
Oh, a little.
Really? Let's have a go at it. Come on.
Hey, wait a minute. I thought you wanted to talk.
Sure, we can talk and have a little workout.
Let's talk first.
One for me. Mike, what would you say if I told you I hold the key to $1 million worth of sunken treasure?
I'd say that's fine, and that you don't need me. That's one for me.
Very good, Mike. There are 3 reasons I need you. 1, I'm not a diver that you could teach me. 2, you've got a boat. 3, an underwater operation for one man alone is too risky. Besides, there's enough money in this deal for a whole regiment. Oh, what do you say?
Sunken treasures for kids. Right now I'm working on something scientific, and that suits me fine.
But, man, the deal I'm talking about is scientific. Scientific research. The gold is only an incidental byproduct. Hey, Mike, tell me, have you ever heard of Alfred Wegener and his theory on the moving continents?
No.
Well, Wegener's dead now. He froze to death on an expedition up in Greenland, a great loss to modern geology.
Too bad. Just what has Wegener's theory got to do with your proposition?
Well, Wegener established, by actual measurement, that all land masses are in constant motion, partially because of the centrifugal force generated as the Earth whirls through space. For instance, the ancient Egyptian pyramids, they're actually miles from where they were first erected. The Strait of Gibraltar is 3 times wider than it was, say, well, in ancient days. And America is 40 or 50 feet, as I understand it, farther away from England as recently as, say, 1920. These land movements are going on today. Intriguing, isn't it?
Fascinating. You through with your little workout now?
Oh, Mike, don't be sore. It was all in fun. What I'm really trying to say is that many long-sunken ships have moved from their original positions, and this bears out Wegener's theory.
A lot of other factors to be taken into consideration, too, you know, like specific gravity, ocean currents.
Very good, Mike, but I'm a mathematician. And all this data would go into my calculations, which I would feed into my computer.
Computer?
Yes, I have a portable one.
Who ever heard of a computer leading you to a sunken ship?
No one. But you see, this is my own secret invention. Well, are we in business?
Are you willing to give me a little demonstration of this computer of yours?
Oh. What kind of a demonstration?
I was afraid that went down here right offshore about around 1897.
Her bearings are well known to everybody, but no one's been able to locate her. There's nothing of value on it, but it might prove a point. You want to try it?
Well, you give me the correct data for my machine, and I'll find it. And if I don't, I'll give up. How's that?
If you do, you got yourself a partner.
Let's shake on it.
Oh, you don't. Last time I did that, you almost broke my neck. How about having lunch with me instead, huh?
All right, that's a deal. I'll get my flippers and be right with you.
Morning.
Morning. Excuse me. Thank you. Well, Mike, this end goes into the water. This feeds directly into the box. That way, the data is fed directly into the machine.
Oh, that's quite a gadget. Look at that machine of yours, huh?
I'm sorry, Mike. I'm afraid your curiosity is going to have to remain unsatisfied. You see, the best years of my life went into developing that machine. And nobody's ever going to have a good look at it. That goes for you too, partner.
You mean I never will be able to see it?
No. Sorry. Well, I'm ready to shove off whenever you are. Follow a course that'll take us to the general area where the freighter went down. By that time, I should be ready to take over.
So we moved out to sea. If I'd known what was waiting for me, I'd never have left the dock.
You gave me is correct. That freight ought to be right about here. That's 300 feet east of her last known bearings, according to my machine.
It's about 80 feet to the bottom. I'll get my gear on and go down and see what's there. If anything.
Thank you for the vote of confidence. I gather you don't think you're going to find anything.
A lot of good men have tried and failed. And that freighter's been on the bottom for over 60 years.
If you keep your eyes open, you'll find something. I'll give you a hand with your stuff.
A few minutes later, I was searching along the bottom. I was sure that I was wasting my time. Then I found the anchor chain. I touched it, sighted along it. I looked up, and there was the freighter. I've never been as surprised as I was at that moment. A man with a theory and a gadget had found something that other men had been hunting for years. I headed for the surface, and my partner at once. That machine of yours is pure magic, and you're a ringtail magician.
Forget the hero worship, Mike. Starting tomorrow, I'm your pupil. When you find those barges and the gold that's in them, I want to be right there with you.
Good enough.
We'll start those skin diving lessons the first thing in the morning.
Hale was an athlete. There was no doubt about that. He learned faster than anyone I'd ever instructed before. But I had a feeling that he wanted to get along without me. If so, he'd be making a big mistake. 90 feet is an awful lot of water, and there are no safe shortcuts to the surface. Suddenly, there was a cave in front of us. I motioned for him to stay out of it, but he went in anyway. I heard the noise when his air tank hit the rock and his air was cut off. By the time I reached him, he was unconscious. Waste any time hauling him out of there and turning on his air valve, but it was still a lot too close for comfort. Another 10 seconds, and he would have been dead. When I got him aboard, he was barely breathing. Hale had swallowed a lot of water. The flicker of life seemed to be there. I coaxed. I pleaded. Slowly, rhythmically, working into exhaustion.
Breathe. Oh, come on. Come on, boy. Breathe. 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 Breathe, boy. Come on. Come on. Fella.
My efforts paid off. He was coming around. A sniff of ammonia would do the trick.
You were trying to get into my...
Here, take it.
Mike, you saved my life. I'll never forget that.
Just do what I tell you to do when we're underwater. If something goes wrong, don't panic.
I did panic, didn't I?
And you almost killed yourself.
It's never gonna happen again.
Hale had the strength of a bull. By the following morning, he was fully recovered, and we were heading out toward the sunken barges. Barges loaded with gold and lost beneath the sea for well over 100 years. The barges had broken loose, collided, and gone down over 40 miles off the coast. If Hale's general theory was correct, the ocean bottom had moved on, and so had the barges. While we headed for the general area, Hale went through his routine of taking sights and fixes and reducing them to mathematical equations for his machine to digest. Hale had a busy routine, but I was beginning to get the funny feeling that a lot of it was strictly for my benefit. When we got close to the target area, Hale stayed with the computer right up until the time that he told me to drop anchor. got into our underwater outfits and started the search. We searched the sea bottom until our air reserve was almost gone, but we found no signs of the wrecked wooden barges and their cargo of gold. What we did find was a number of jettisoned oil drums, metal ones, and very definitely of the 20th century. Was disappointed, but I was disturbed by what might possibly have been just a peculiar coincidence. Those oil drums were metal, and so was the freighter that we'd found. There was something that didn't seem right to me, and I was determined to find a few minutes alone for a look at Hale's mysterious machine.
I can't understand it.
Maybe your machine just goofed.
My machine never makes mistakes. The data I fed into it must have been wrong. I'd better recheck my figures.
I awakened early the following morning. Hale was still asleep. This could be my chance to have a look into that sea chest. I reached for his keys.
Morning.
Good morning.
Oh, gotta get going, don't you think?
Yeah. You're up early.
Today's the day, isn't it?
That's right, partner.
Hale made some new computations, and we were on our way again, trying to find the sunken treasure barges.
Cut engines and drop anchor right here.
Plan, and it worked. I suggested to Hale that we split up, search in different directions, and then rendezvous back at the boat. This gave me my chance. First objective was the drift meter hanging from its cable beneath the boat. appear to be anything unusual about it until I turned away. Then it almost seemed alive as it leaped at my metal tank and clung to it. There was no doubt about the powerful magnetism the gadget was emitting. No matter how I turned my compass, the needle pointed toward it. Now I knew that Hale had lied to me. His machine was not a computer. Hale's whole routine had been phony from start to finish. What he called a computer was really a very sensitive detector of metallic objects. The lettering on the device made it plain that Hale was a thief, if not worse. It was designed for anti-submarine warfare, not for treasure hunting, and he'd stolen it from the research laboratories of the U.S. Navy. I had to contact Naval Intelligence, and fast. In the meantime, Hale had found the barges, and he'd sent up a marker boy. Hey, it's nothing.
Well, I found it. We're rich, man. Rich. Oh, what's the matter, what is it?
Take it easy now, huh? We're in enough trouble as it is.
The other one was in trouble.
In my backyard for a change of thunder.
Hale was a muscle man, but he couldn't stay underwater as long as I could. When I hauled him back aboard, he was out cold. When the copter arrived to pick up Hale and his stolen gadget, I lit a flare for them. I felt like I was back in the Navy again. It felt good.
Hello there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. You know, 3/5 of the world is covered by the sea. And how little most of us know about that underwater world. Go below with us again next week, huh? For another thrilling adventure in Sea Hunt.